Caitlin Clark, the young star of the Indiana Fever, has been one of the most talked about names in basketball over the past 2 years. Her talent, passion, and leadership on the court have inspired fans across the country. After a record-breaking college career at Iowa, Clark joined the WNBA and quickly became the face of the Indiana Fever. Her rookie season was filled with excitement and strong performances, and by her second year, she had already made a big mark on the league. In July 2025, Caitlin Clark was honored with one of the highest individual awards in the sport. She was named WNBA Player of the Year at the ESPYs. This was a huge accomplishment, especially for someone so early in their career.
You guys know now who won.
Okay.
Drum roll.
Okay.
And the winner is Caitlin Clark.
And just like that, the WNBA handed Caitlin Clark a golden crown, placing her above seasoned legends like Breanna Stewart, Aja Wilson, and Nafisa Collier. No, this wasn't some fairy tale moment. This was a calculated move. The league knew exactly what it was doing. Clark wasn't just their rising star, she was their marketing machine. But here's where the story takes a suspicious twist. Right after the confetti settled from her so-called Player of the Year win, trouble came knocking, and not in some ordinary way. During a game against the Connecticut Sun, Caitlin Clark started suddenly limping around like she'd been hiding an injury for weeks. Groin discomfort? Really? That's the excuse? It all felt too timed, like the perfect drama to pull her out of public expectations just days after the biggest honor of her career. Then, boom, July 17th, she pulls out of the All-Star game and the three-point contest, both set to happen right in her backyard, Indianapolis. The same city that was gearing up to celebrate her like a hometown hero now had to swallow disappointment. Was it injury or image protection? Clark's fans were devastated, but the timing raised eyebrows. How does a player go from being crowned the league's queen to sitting courtside in street clothes in less than a week? Of course, her coach Stephanie White stepped in with the usual rehearsed lines about evaluation and precaution. And Caitlin, she posted some sad emojis and a love you all message online, hoping that would be enough to calm the fire. But not everyone was buying it. Some insiders whispered that the injury was far more convenient than it was painful, a strategic retreat before she risked underperforming in front of a sold-out all-star crowd. And sure, she promised to cheer from the sidelines, how noble. But the truth? This entire episode felt like damage control disguised as injury management. With Caitlin Clark suddenly too injured to compete, the WNBA was left scrambling and fast. Their main attraction just bailed on the three-point contest in her own city. Not a great look for a league trying to build buzz around its so-called golden girl. So what did they do? Simple. They called in the backup, Lexy Hall. Let's be honest, Hall wasn't supposed to be in the spotlight. She's not flashy, she's not the media darling. She's the quiet one, the other Fever player who actually shows up and does her job. While Clark soaked up headlines, Hall had been grinding all season with one of the best three-point shooting percentages in the league, yet barely got a whisper of attention. But now, conveniently, with Clark out of the picture, Lexy was suddenly good enough. She became the league's emergency poster girl, the plug-and-play fix to stop the PR leak. And just when fans thought this couldn't get any more emotionally loaded, the league latched on to something else. Personal tragedy. Hull's 14-year-old dog, Maggie, had just passed away. A deeply painful moment for any human being, no doubt. But let's not pretend that the WNBA didn't weaponize it for emotional pull. Social media was flooded with her black and white grief post. Fans poured in with condolations. But the biggest spotlight moment? Caitlin Clark, who days earlier was facing massive heat, swooping in with a short, carefully worded, "Love you" reply. That was enough to send her fans spiraling into Queen Clark supports her teammates mode. And then came Sophie Cunningham with her "so sorry" comment. Another orchestrated moment to show how tight-knit the sisterhood in the WNBA really is. But behind the hashtags and hugs, the truth is this. Lexy Hall's moment wasn't about her skills or her shot or even her grief. It was a rescue mission, a way to soften the blow of Clark's withdrawal, reel in sympathy, and distract from the reality that the league's biggest star just bailed on the biggest stage and someone else had to clean it up. This wasn't just about basketball. It was about damage control, about optics, about keeping fans emotionally hooked while avoiding uncomfortable questions. Because behind every sisterhood hug and heartfelt tweet is a business move. Lexy Hull was silently carrying real grief, mourning the death of her 14-year-old dog Maggie. But instead of giving her the space to process it privately, the WNBA and media quickly turned her tragedy into another marketing opportunity. It wasn't about honoring her pain. It was about spinning a heartbreak into a heartwarming narrative. Cue the teammates swooping in with support. Sophie Cunningham and Caitlin Clark dropped predictable one-line sympathy replies. Fans swooned, called it beautiful. But let's cut through the sugarcoating. This wasn't just friendship. This was strategic branding, carefully choreographed to show unity, while the league was under fire for everything from favoritism to rigged awards to Clark's questionable injury. And Sophie? Oh, she's suddenly the big sister figure now, the fierce, loyal enforcer of the Indiana Fever. Don't forget earlier this season when Clark got rocked with a hard foul, it was Cunningham who jumped in to defend her, loudly, emotionally, dramatically. Fans ate it up. The league slapped her with a fine. But let's be real, that outburst wasn't just protection. It was a calculated stand, a moment Cunningham knew would elevate her image from just a gritty defender to team guardian. It worked. Instantly, Sophie became the face of Fever loyalty, despite many whispering behind the scenes that her actions were more about optics than actual chemistry. Now, fans are obsessively labeling her, Clark, and Hull as the Tres Leches, a cute nickname based on a dessert, but really a PR package meant to sell a fantasy. 3 warriors bonded in love, loyalty, and sacrifice. But underneath the sugar-coated nickname lies a bitter truth. This sisterhood feels more like a defensive wall, built not just to protect each other, but to shield the league's favorite star from the growing backlash. The trio's image is being polished daily, pushed to the media with just the right balance of vulnerability and strength. But here's what no one dares to say out loud. This bond isn't just emotional, it's political. Lexy Hull, the hard-working shooter, Sophie Cunningham, the outspoken protector, and Caitlin Clark, the golden brand. Together, they're a trio tailor-made for PR warfare, designed to silence critics, smother controversy, and shift the narrative from rigged league to unbreakable sisterhood. The sad part is, it's working. Every emotional tweet, every staged courtside hug, every post-game photo op, it's all fueling the myth while burying the real stories of veterans pushed aside, teammates quietly frustrated, and a fanbase starting to see through the carefully curated illusion. And the league? They're more than happy to keep the Tres Leches brand alive, even if it means faking unity to cover up the cracks. And then came the cherry on top of this carefully crafted PR cake. Sophie Cunningham sporting a custom Tres Leches shirt, complete with cartoon faces of herself, Caitlin Clark, and Lexy Hull. Cute? Maybe. Strategic? Absolutely. That shirt wasn't just a fan favorite. It was a walking billboard, pushing the narrative of unity, loyalty, and emotional sisterhood in a season riddled with controversy. Fans gushed, social media lit up, but behind the bubble letters and cartoon grins, there was a much colder reality. This was brand control at its finest. The Tres Leches label became more than a nickname. It became a shield, a symbol to distract fans from the truth. The truth that this so-called unbreakable bond was being amplified on purpose, while other players, veterans, rising stars, even Clark's own teammates were being completely sidelined in the spotlight. And here's the uncomfortable part no one wants to say. The media didn't invent Tres Leches. The team did, and the WNBA ran with it, turning real grief and disappointment into a feel-good storyline to protect the golden image of Clark and those closest to her. It was less about support and more about containment, keeping public attention tightly focused on a trio the league could trust. Let's break it down. Clark had just pulled out of the All-Star weekend after winning a suspiciously timed ESPY. Hull was quietly subbed in, her grief packaged and softened for emotional effect. Cunningham, she doubled down, making sure everyone saw that this trio was still strong. The result? Fans weren't talking about Clark skipping out or the players snubbed in her place or even the growing whispers of favoritism. They were too busy praising cartoons on a t-shirt and sobbing over friendship goals. And just like that, a fake dessert name became the centerpiece of a narrative reset. We're told it's about resilience, that these three women are symbols of emotional strength. But in reality, this was a calculated emotional shield, protecting a superstar from criticism, shielding a team from internal scrutiny, and turning private pain into public sympathy. Yes, Clark was hurting after dropping out. Yes, Hull lost something precious. Yes, Cunningham stood by them. But let's not pretend this wasn't spun like gold. Because in the WNBA's current chaos, where locker rooms whisper, media twists headlines, and veterans get tossed aside, unity sells, and the Tres Leches brand was their hottest product. Strength? It's easy to preach when you're at the center of the marketing machine. But real strength? That's the stuff you don't tweet about, brand into a shirt, or post with emojis. The WNBA would love for you to believe this was a story about heart, about resilience, about sisterhood. They want fans to remember the injury, the grief, the hugs, and the cartoon t-shirts. Not the fact that Caitlin Clark pulled out, Lexy Hall was used as a sympathy stand-in, and Sophie Cunningham acted as the league's emotional bulldog. Let's be honest, this wasn't some fairy tale about teamwork. It was a carefully staged cover-up where raw emotion became a PR weapon and fans were spoon-fed feel-good content to avoid asking real questions. Social media? It exploded. Not with questions, but with heart emojis and shallow praise. The real conversation got buried under viral clips of support and teary captions. The league succeeded in what it does best, controlling the narrative while silencing dissent. And while fans clapped for real friendship, veteran players who've been grinding in the league for years without ever getting this kind of spotlight watched from the shadows. The uncomfortable truth: if this injury had happened to anyone else besides Clark, the league wouldn't have blinked. No t-shirts, no tribute posts, no emotional montages, just another player out. But because it was Caitlin Clark, the machine went into overdrive, dragging in Hull's personal loss, polishing Sophie's big sister act, and slapping a sentimental label on top of it all: heart. The Indiana Fever, they're not just playing basketball anymore. They've become the league's emotional insurance policy. Every time backlash hits, it's this trio they roll out: smiles, tears, and just enough drama to make you forget what's really going on. They say Clark will hopefully return stronger, but what about the real pressure she faces now? The unspoken tension inside that locker room? The growing unease among fans who are finally asking, is this league built on talent or on a single player's image? They say Hull is excited for the three-point contest, but she's entering it carrying grief, expectations, and someone else's spotlight. And Cunningham, she's been cast as the emotional rock, but let's not forget her rise in popularity is directly tied to being Clark's vocal protector. Her loyalty is real, but it's also useful, and the league is cashing in. This isn't about wins and losses. This is about control and perception. The WNBA is trying to sell fans a new storyline where friendship replaces fairness and emotion replaces accountability. But the deeper you look, the clearer it becomes. This isn't a story about heart. This is a story about how heart is used to distract, to pacify, and to protect a brand built on one name. And now we turn it to you. Is this true loyalty or just another illusion? Is the Tres Leches trio a real bond or just a brilliant distraction?